Hey, it's the Brian and Kindra Show. We're here to talk about real estate, give you some valuable tips and insights in the Woodward small market real estate. Today, we have Michael Wickware here.
What's up?
And you are, what is your position?
I am the Woodward Fire Department Fire Chief.
Fire Chief.
Yeah.
So that's like managing broker, fire chief.
Yeah. Big dog.
All right. The guy that gets stuck with all
the one that everything gets blamed on.
That's right. Hey, yeah. The coffee machine doesn't work this morning.
Exactly.
Okay, yeah.
That'd be a...
I got it. So, fire chief. All right. So, we're here talking about real estate, really, but we're kind of coming into the season of winter. And the only rentals I've had ever burned down were due to electrical space heater fires.
Yeah.
So we're going to talk about some things like that. How long have you been around Woodward?
I've been here my whole life.
I
grew up here. I was born in Shattuck and way back in 1981, and I've been here ever since. I left here a couple of years and went to college in Alva and came back and worked in the oil and gas a little bit, and then got into the fire service and started in the fire service officially in 2005 and became full-time in 2006. And
sweet. And you have two kids, and are either of them getting into the fire industry?
they are not.
Oh.
I think they're going to probably go for something that pays a little
Pays a
better
little
and it's a
better,
little
yeah,
safer.
yeah.
So I think one's going into marketing and the other one's going into accounting. So
Sweet. Well, accounting and marketing. Well, all right. Well, marketing makes a living.
it does.
It's such a big, with all this new AI, and it's going to really put the marketing people, they're going to have to step it up to a whole new level
Yeah.
to compete. So, but in the fire industry, there's no artificial intelligence yet for fire stuff yet, is there?
There's no AI for the fire that I know of.
Okay.
But yeah, you're right. I mean, I can get on the internet now and really look like I know what I'm doing with with AI. ChatGPT can write me this email. It's amazing.
That's right.
Is that did you do ChatGPT on this?
I'm sure that's what happened. I mean, I was too lazy to even do that. So let's start about home safety. Let's get started there. So as we're coming into this cold season, what are some things that a homeowner or a renter, or somebody lives in a house, everybody, what should they do to prepare?
I would recommend lots of system checks. Like you need to set up certain times throughout the year that you want to be methodical about sort of checking your home, almost like a vehicle. You want to check your smoke detectors with your batteries, make sure they're good. You want to make sure they're working. I believe on like ADT and some of the I just lost it. Almost said Venmo.
Yeah, Vivint.
Vivint. Yeah, Vivint. Yeah, I think you can do tests on those if you just let them know. Just things like that. Make sure that check your air filters, things of that nature. If you're going to pull an old space heater out of the closet or something, really check the plug-in, check the receptacle, make sure everything's kind of in good shape, and
in the garage first.
Yeah, put it out in the garage. Just make sure and just watch it. Give it some respect and make sure that you don't want to trust your life with something that hasn't been tested. So
right. Well, I know the heat and air guys here in town are really good at doing system checks, and they have a service call, $120 or $30, $40, something like that. They'll come out and they'll pull the front off your heater, check your burner tubes, make sure you're good there. They'll check to make sure they're not rusted. You're not getting carbon monoxide in your house. They'll do a good, they'll clean it. And so that's, I don't do that. We had 3 of them checked here. Like, hey, I don't know if any of these have ever ran. So go check those 3.
Yeah.
So at this new building we're in. So smoke alarms, how many smoke alarms should we have in our house?
That's a good question. I mean, it's not really regulated by anything other than there are certain buildings and certain type of structures that are, obviously you're going to want a smoke detector around an area where you have any type of heat source, any type of fire danger. So, around a kitchen, you don't want it directly in the line, of smoke and steam, because that could set it off. And you're constantly fighting that. But you just want to be thinking about, areas that, heat sources are prevalent, and you want enough that they're going to pick up any smoke and alert you and let you get out. So, they're not very expensive, and they're just a very, very cheap insurance policy. So I know I didn't give you a super concrete answer, but the more the better.
Right. So our lending practices, FHA requires one at the entrance of each bedroom, I believe, is what they require. I think that's it. And any floor. So if you have 2 separate floors, you have to have one on each floor and one in front of each bedroom.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
that sounds right.
Is it in the entrance? Is it in the bedroom? One in each bedroom and one in the hallway in front of the bedrooms, and then one on each floor. I think that's what they require.
Yeah, I think that's right.
Yeah, we've had to install a few here and there. So what's the difference between a heat detector and a smoke detector? Do you see many heat detectors anymore?
You really don't. I mean, they're a little bit more, prevalent with your fire suppression systems, your sprinkler systems, that type of stuff. A lot of them will operate off of heat sensors, whereas your smoke detector is just going to pick up smoke. So, there are certain applications in certain places where your heat sensing, apparatus are in place. But, typically in a residential structure, you're going to see smoke detectors. I mean, it's the simplest, cheapest thing. Probably more in your commercial structures, especially where they have sprinkler systems, you will see some heat type stuff.
I think back in the 80s, somebody went door to door and sold those metal ones that are so loud. Have you ever seen one of them off?
Yeah, I know exactly what you're talking about.
So if you're looking at a house and you're trying to set that one off to test it, you can't reset it.
No, you can't.
So I can't remember what they're called. They're a heat detector, and the little piece of metal. And I had a customer way long time ago. Took a broomstick and hit that. He was pushing on it, trying to get it set. He said, "I can't get this. This must be bad." And man, when it went off, it was
there was
neighbors.
No doubt, huh?
It was no doubt you would have been awake. So, yeah, those are way expensive, and they're even hard to find anymore. Next, smoke. How about fire extinguishers?
That's a good question. All commercial structures are typically required to have fire extinguishers.
Naked note.
Yeah.
I don't know if we have one.
I'll check those for you guys when I walk by. There are certain stipulations that will change, but a good general rule of thumb is every 75 walking feet is what you want for, a 5-pound fire extinguisher. You do need to have it annually inspected, and I'm talking commercial right now. You need to have it annually inspected, and there's some places in town that do a really good job of that. And like every 5 year, I think you have to send it off to do some kind of special test on it. But you really want to you have to have that done as per standard. If someone comes and inspects you, they'll be looking for that. But really, you should check your extinguisher once a month. And man, I wish I had one here. I could show you how to do it really quick. But it's super quick and super simple. It takes about 2 minutes. The main thing is check the gauge, make sure it's working, check the pin, make sure it's in place, take the hose off, blow it out, make sure there's no cobwebs in it, screw it right back on, flip it upside down, smack it on the bottom, and it's good to go. And you can do it that quick. And so sometimes that powder will cake up in there and can cause it to malfunction. And so just getting into a good habit of doing that once a month is really good. Residentially, as far as I know, there's no requirement to have one, but it's always a good practice to have one at your house, even if it's just one of those cheap ones from Walmart. I would always have a fire extinguisher at your house because it's amazing how much fire they can put out. It really is.
It's really, from experience, it's pretty awesome.
You caught some stuff on fire, huh?
So what's funny is we have several fireworks stands, and every year we buy new fire extinguishers. So the old ones. And we have extras, so we just go to practice. We have one at each door, at each end of the deal, which I tell them, if anything catches on fire inside the fireworks stand, you just run. Don't try to put it out. If it's outside the stand, try to put it out. But and so I took him home, was messing with him. I said, my daughter had some friends over, and I said, let's see how these smokes. Have you guys ever used fire extinguishers? And so we got fire extinguishers out, and I showed them how to pull the pin and shoot at the base of the fire, and we were having a good time shooting each other with, not really, but we were making a big mess out in the yard. Not a week later was I being dumb.
Yeah.
And I lit this firework on the concrete. I thought I was all safe, except it exploded, which is why don't light wet fireworks. And it shot fireworks out and caught the grass on fire. And my daughter runs in to the house, grabs the fire extinguisher out of the kitchen, pulls the pin, heads out there, and it's like putting out fires. She's 13. Like,
yeah.
Yes.
Trained her right.
Good job. So, yeah, we I think it's a great thing. It's go to Walmart. They're $10. Mm-hmm. Take your kids outside. It's one of the funnest things. Yeah. Shoot it.
Yeah. It's.
And then that way, I was when I lived. Oh, I didn't live there. I was picking up my daughter at daycare on Edgewood, and the guy's car in the backyard caught on fire. Mm. And so I grabbed her smoke fire extinguisher, jumped the fence, and the guy that was there before me, he was shooting right on top of the fire. Like, the car was on fire, and he was just shooting on top. Mm. And I'm like, buddy, at the bottom of the fire. Like,
the seat of the fire. Yeah, that's right.
Let's knock that down. So I don't know what he was doing with his, but we got it out. But so yeah, I think that's a fun, cheap activity for your children.
Yeah, absolutely.
And it teaches them something.
It's good for employees to do with their employers to do with their employees.
Yeah.
You know, try to. Ooh. I think that the tech center, and you guys have surely had your fire extinguisher training, right?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
We're going to, because that's so much fun.
I know that they have I know our public education officer, Melissa Hobbs, she has a simulator. She does some training. I know the tech center does it. They actually have simulators now that are crazy lifelike, and you can go through the whole process of practicing and pulling and sweeping. It doesn't make near as much of a mess, and I think they still do some old school where they'll light a pan on fire and spray them. But it's good to put your employees through that training and just some kind of little monthly safety meeting you can do with them. That could end up saving your whole business, your whole structure.
Absolutely. I mean, and we go in and out of lots of houses, so you never know. We're always out and about, and you never know what we'll see. I mean, while we're out and about, I think it's a great idea. We'll have to put that on the calendar, because that sounds fun to me. Escape plans. This is one that we don't do well. I know my daughter, we've talked about it several times, especially when I was doing the fire thing. I was like, yeah, you've got 2 ways out of this house, or 3 ways. This stairwell, that stairwell, and out that window. So I said, don't worry about the window. Just something big, throw it through it. Open it if you can. Don't waste any time.
Yeah.
Try to break it. Get out that window. And so we're on the 2nd floor. I need to put up a ladder. Mm-hmm. I should do that.
Yeah.
So,
or a pole you could slide down.
Oh, that'd be even. Then she would do it all the time just for fun.
Yeah.
She's ornery. Not like her dad. So yeah, fire escape plan. Is there somebody that can come help a family do that? Like, hey, we live in this weird house, or not really?
That's a good question. I mean, you could request that the fire department come. We've done a little bit of that. We typically do that kind of stuff more for commercial. Yeah. On the commercial side of things. But, I guess the thing I would say to people is, definitely don't overcomplicate it. Have a couple of muster points outside that you're going to go, have a backup one in case the first one's compromised. And just, the larger the family, the more important, it is, because you got more accountability, more people you're trying to make sure are out. But, just really take an honest look at your house, where you're, just like you just did. Okay, I'm on the 2nd floor. Do we have a means of egress to get out? Like, what would I actually do to get out of this house if it was on fire, and the hallway was blocked? Take a little bit of time and then just train with your family. Like, actually train.
Yeah,
and
we did. I said, okay, most points of fire are kitchen, electric panel, or garage. That's your 3 biggest choices. So if obviously the kitchen's on fire, you go that way. If the garage is on fire, you go that way. And so actually our electric panel's in the garage. But Yeah, so we did that, and I think that's 10 minutes. I mean, whatever.
Yeah.
And they're listening more than we think they are.
Yeah, they are. I mean, it's incredibly important. It's even important if you go somewhere, you know, you want to try to develop that situational awareness. I talk about it a lot on the self-defense side of things, but on the fire side of things as well. You know, you want to always be any place that you go. You want to be looking at your escape plan, your means of egress. I think one of the largest, not one of the largest, but it was a very highly publicized fatality event that happened at a nightclub. People were trying to escape, and you know, when you start to panic, you kind of fall back on your least level of training that you have, kind of the last thing that you can remember. And so people just started trying to bail out of the door, the front door of this nightclub that caught on fire. I think the pyrotechnics caught on fire. And so they all tried to go out the way that they came in, and they just started stacking up and piling in the door. I think around 300 people died. And you know, one of the guys that was in there, he was a volunteer firefighter, and he just looked over and there was windows everywhere. He just punched a window, and him and his girlfriend jumped out. I mean, several people did that, but it was just, you know, he was aware enough to know what was going on. He had studied that, he'd trained that kind of thing, so he understood it. But if you're just a regular civilian and you're not used to thinking about that kind of stuff, and you just go into a club and you're not really paying attention, and all of a sudden everyone's panicking, trying to run out, you know, you're probably going to run out the way that you came in. I mean, it's what makes sense. Mm-hmm. But, you know, just that little bit of extra situational awareness, looking around, you know, people might think you're a weirdo, but, you know, you never know what's going to catch on fire.
One of those things, it's funny because every time we get on an airplane, I always listen to the lady, because I think, wow, all these people are rude. They're not even listening to the lady tell us how to get off this plane if it crashes, you know?
That's exactly right.
I like, just be aware. Like, yeah. Like, we might not have exit signs here yet. They're all in order.
You guys are in the construction phase.
Because the guy said, I mean, our code guy was like, you need to make sure these are lighted. These stickers don't work. So, but yeah, even here, it made a good point. Like, we have a back door here, but the back door is a lock, double keyed on each side. Mm. Well, what? Mm. It's on my list of things to do to get to where I can go through that door. So I got to get a tumbler lock thing.
Yeah. I mean, whenever I was the fire marshal, and I still act as the fire marshal now, we have one being trained, but I always tell people when I come in their business, I'm like, look, at the end of the day, what I'm looking at is if this place catches on fire, how are the people inside going to get out, and how are our guys going to get in, and like what's that going to look like? And so that's really how that's how I was trained to approach all structures, you know, and that's just the way you want to look at it as well as a business owner or whatever. You're like, okay, you know, let's say a semi hit a power line and took all the power out in here. Could people see to get out? Would they be falling down? Like, you know, would they be tripping over stuff? They need a clear path of egress to get out of the structure. And it doesn't take a lot of planning or a lot of money to do that. You know, your exit lights now come with those frog eyes, mm-hmm. which have those lights on them. And so you need an exit sign, you need illumination, and you can get those signs fairly cheap, and just, it's kind of like extinguishers. The more the better, you know, is if it's a designated area to get out, that's what you want to take advantage of. And you do want to make sure that it can't be locked from, you want to make sure that it's unlocked, yes, not from the outside when people are inside. Right. And so that's a huge thing.
Crazy over here. Yeah. And this building's like a maze. So if you get lost in here, you're in trouble.
Yeah.
So
absolutely.
More lights. Got it. You talk about electrical safety. We don't know anything about that. Okay, so I'm gonna bring this back up because I think it's one of the most important things right now is the space heater thing. Mm-hmm. So we have the old school, just the coil heater. They heat the coils and has a fan behind it blowing, and then they have the oil radiating heaters, and then now we have infrared heaters. Which of those are the safest to use?
But that's a good question. I mean, I think they all have their pros and cons. Typically, the newer model the heater is, the more safety factors it's going to have in it. The more old school the heater is, the more likely it is to have less safety factors in it. So, they just hadn't been sued very many times at that point.
Right. Yeah.
So I mean, I know that's not a very specific answer, but they have pros and cons for sure. Just the most important thing with heaters is to realize that things can combust that aren't touching the heater. The heat transfer can happen. So like, say I have a piece of paper that is, 6 inches away from a strong heat source, it can combust that piece of paper without touching. And so, you need to be thinking about things like that. But yeah, your heaters are, they are what they are. They're a necessity. A lot of people have them. They're just like anything. I mean, it's just fire. I mean, it's a source of fire. So you have to be careful when you play with fire. Yeah.
I need that reminder. Okay. Next, grilling safety.
This is a good one.
This is a good one. I could show you videos. I should record myself. I should make videos on how not to light your grill.
Yeah. Yeah. I've come close to burning the eyebrows off a few times. So.
I mean, I've done it a few times.
Yeah.
Yes. I have a quirky dadgum pellet smoker, and it frustrates me. I have to clean it every time, which the manual probably says to do that.
Yeah.
But I have to take my shop vac and take it apart and suck it all out, and then I take my leaf blower and I blow it all everywhere, and every now and then I'm not going to say anymore. So I had my smoker pellet grill, the whole thing on blaze. It was so exciting. Luckily, I live in a metal house with metal siding and a metal roof. Nothing combustible around it.
There you go.
It was very entertaining. Shut the lid and let it go off. But so I think that's a big deal. So one thing I've seen at lots of houses is vinyl siding that is warped. Wow, how close was your grill?
Yeah. I forget the exact regulation. It's been a little bit since I've looked at that, but I want to say it's 10 feet away. I don't think anybody actually follows that. But
it doesn't, because your cord's 6 feet.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, that's exactly right.
So I'm like, I have to have an extension cord to plug in my...
Yeah, it's one of those regulations that doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's just like anything else. You got to be careful, realize how much heat you have going on with that grill, how hot it is, and how, just like I'm talking about earlier with the paper, I mean, that heat transfers over to your siding, to the wood on your house. It can absolutely warp it. Best case scenario, worst case scenario, ignite it. So you should be careful with your grills. You want to make sure that look up, see where the heat is going. If you're under some really tight awning, that's not usually a good deal. So you just want to use a lot of good common sense. Try to get your grill, away from all types of heat sources that could cause you a problem. And yeah, we deal with that. I mean, on the regular, people catch stuff on fire and whatnot.
No, I mean, at my house, no alcohol was involved, but I think in some of them.
there's usually some alcohol involved. The turkey stuff's coming up too.
Oh, God, that's a big one.
Yeah, you don't want to.
Oh, my gosh. I've never done it yet because I've seen too many crazy stories. I'm like, I'm the guy that's going to burn the world down.
Yeah. Yeah, if you want to watch, for your audience, if you want to watch some super entertaining videos, go to YouTube and type in.
Do not put a frozen turkey in grease.
Don't do it. It is a catastrophe waiting to happen. So yeah, just watch the videos on it. You'll see it's not a good deal. So.
No, they'll be aware of that. The other thing is we're almost out of time, but landscaping around your house. I think this is a big deal. I think most houses, people, when they plant their shrubs and their tall grasses, and they're like, oh, I want it to be pretty, and I don't want this big weird gap between my house, and they plant it, 3 foot from the house, and then the grass is 4 feet wide, so it just wraps up right up against the house.
Yeah, Yeah, and they're kind of talking about wildland and wildland urban interface and that type of stuff. And yeah, you have to be very careful with the shrubs around your house, with the trees around your house. I mean, there's some of it that you can't control, but what you can control, you want to be thinking about, especially in regards to grilling or, any other type of fire source that you have. And, just realize that when we are in a state like we were, 5 months ago, 4 months ago, before we got the rain, I mean, it was so easy to start a fire. It was just crazy. And so, keeping those things in mind and keep Murphy's Law in mind, what can go wrong will go wrong.
Yeah. So in Woodward, in your experience in Woodward, what are the top reasons houses have burned down?
That is a good question.
Both of mine were space heaters.
You burned 2 houses down, owned those?
I owned them.
Okay, I was going to say.
The tenants burnt them down with space heaters.
We might really have to come in and check out your operation, see what you got going.
I heard it's a felony to burn your own house down.
It is.
Even if it's out in the country and it's a farmhouse.
That is affirmative. You can get in a lot of trouble for... Let's just put it this way. Fire will get you in a lot of trouble on purpose or accidentally.
Yes.
So,
yeah, I had a buddy of mine, he said, I was just going to burn it down. So I called the fire department and said, hey, I'm getting ready to burn this pile of limbs in this old farmhouse. They're like, no, you're not.
Yeah. That's a common misconception. People, we get calls about that all the time. And, I grew up, when I was young, we burned our trash. Like, it just wasn't a big deal.
Yeah, we did.
You're not supposed to do that. It's technically illegal. That's not a fire department thing. That's a DEQ, Department of Environmental Quality rule. And so they're basically like the state version of the EPA. And so they have rules on that. If you can have your trash picked up, if the service is available to your residents, which I believe everyone in Oklahoma or in Woodward County is,
yes,
then you're not supposed to burn it. Now, if you've called to set up, a sanitation company and they won't do it, then I think at that point you are allowed to burn. But, burning trash, burning things like that, burning anything that is processed. So you're not really even supposed to be burning like processed treated lumber. The only thing that you can burn is organic. So, I mean, we've had people call and say, hey, can I burn these boards? And we're like, absolutely not. And they're like, well, I mean, can I burn these limbs? And we're like, yeah, you can burn limbs, but you can't burn boards. And so,
yes. So, Michael, we're out of time. I appreciate you coming in, give some safety stuff and talking about fire safety around our houses and this cold season coming up. We just want everybody to be safe during Thanksgiving. Talk to your kids, talk to your family, talk to your employees about fire safety.
Yeah, absolutely. And if you have questions, feel free to reach out to the fire department. We're always there.
What's that phone number?
The non-emergency line is 580-254-8540.
Yes. All right, guys, thanks for listening. If you have any questions on this, give us a shout. My number is 580-334-2303. Or check us out online. Thanks a bunch.